And they are off. Alrighty, so it looks like to start this match off, Hypa is going to start with Gutsman. Meanwhile, Fishbowl is heading into Bombman stage. Both interesting starts for both players. It's an interesting strat here. Bombman's usually the easier route to go with, because then you can go straight to Gutsman and make your way around. But also it's interesting to see Gutsman first, because, you know, this also eliminates having to start with Bombman, and, you know, it's interesting to see what happens from here.
Hey, Sacred Hooves, how you doing?
A little relieved to hear another voice. How you doing, Mythical?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Bomb first is definitely interesting. That's one word to describe it. I don't think I've ever seen this route. Generally, if you... the idea is to get the Magna Beam as fast as possible, basically. And so that means going to Electman stage, but fighting Electman is a lot slower without his weakness, so you go to Cutman, and Cutman can't really be sped up too much with some of the other stuff, so Cutman is the starting point there. Also, in Electman stage, you need, if you're not going to zip, you need Gutsman's weapon to get the Magna Beam, so naturally you need to do Gutsman. And then that works as well because Cutman's weakness is Gutsman, and then you have the weakness for Electman. But there is a zip you can do, and we're seeing a death there from Fishbowl. You do not get your invincibility frames to walk on spikes in this game. You just immediately die. Pretty unfair, as you can see. But yes, going back, you can skip Gutsman, start at Cutman, go to Electman, and then rather than use Gutsman's weapon to open the way to the Magna Beam, you can zip in there as long as you avoid getting stuck in Mega Jail by inching out of it and grabbing the Magna Beam with your toe and pulling it towards you. So those are the two options. Magna Beam speeds up every other stage. After that, including Bombman stage, it speeds up Bombman stage quite a bit. So the only reason to go here first would be a general lack of familiarity, I think, with the Magna Beam. So that tells me that Fishbowl's a newer player, and he's come up with his own strats that work for him, but he's going to really have to make it work to go up against a player like Hypa, who has put up a solid 2-hour time earlier in the tournament.
And Fishbowl gets Bombman down. Meanwhile, over on Hypa's end of the world, going through Cutman takes an accidental down, going up the little ladder section here. It's thankfully he does have a checkpoint at the start of this section, so it's not too bad of a time loss, but still, taking it down in the early going is not exactly something you want to have going for you.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. What are the players' timers at on your end?
Let's see here. They are... Hypa's is in sync with mine, and Fishbowl's is a couple seconds faster.
What is the actual time, though, so I can go ahead and get synced up to you?
The actual time is 4 minutes and 10 seconds and counting now.
Alright, good.
Ouchie! Fishbowl there! Oh no, game over in Gutsman stage. That's definitely going to push him back a little bit as Hypa just made it to Gutsman's door, so this is unfortunate news for Fishbowl. He's definitely going to have to want to play a little bit more careful here.
Yeah, he got a little antsy on the edge. He was kind of standing there, and he thought, I want to get a little further on this ledge to make this jump easier for me, and he just slipped right off.
And unfortunately fell again to his death. Hypa, on the other hand, mid-make it to Gutsman, was doing good, but accidentally threw one of the rocks the opposite direction. Oops.
Yep, not what you want to do. You've got those 2 rocks to 2-hit Cutman. Also, if you use the select glitch, you can do it in one. But not getting either of those two things to work for him. Gonna have to buster him down a little bit.
Well, good news for FishBowl. Hypa just made a no-no, accidentally reselected Gutsman.
Nice. Nice job. Both players off to the rockiest of starts. We could be in for a bit of a grind here. Finding the first pit he can and jumping into it is Hypa.
It is a small setback, but unfortunately it does give FishBowl the, necessary time he needs to make the recovery from the game over here at Gutsman, making his way through the second half of the stage now. So it's the little things like that oh no! Hypa! Again! No! Wrong thing! Accidentally selects continue in the game over screen and heads back to Cutman again!
Oh man, you could tell he's definitely not familiar with having to take a game over here in Mega Man 1. Mashing the buttons.
This has definitely been the most interesting start for the first 10 minutes of this run, folks. This is by far, wow.
Interesting is one way to put it. At this point, I think it would be insulting to the players to be like, oh darn, it happens sometimes. Like, I think both players know exactly how stupid the situation is. They're pretty embarrassed, I'm sure, and I'm just hoping that they can shake this off and come back to us with something a little closer to what they're really capable of. All right, there it is. The hesitation on the screen. Waiting.
There we go. Smooth
All
entry.
right.
So Hypa, now taking after the couple of oopses, is now heading into Electman stage. FishBowl just finished Gutsman, will now head to Cutman himself.
Oh, this is interesting. See, this is what I thought. When he was hesitating on that screen, I realized maybe the input on that screen is really old school. And I'm pretty sure he had to press select to switch down to stage select rather than continue, because down was not the thing you need to do in that menu.
I do believe for classic Mega Man 1, it is the select button you have to use to go between the game over screens for the continue and stage select, so that can throw anybody off, because normally you only use select for like a couple different things in Mega Man. Not often do you ever see it used.
Yeah, Mega Man 1 though has the ever so useful select glitch that sort of pauses the game, but also keeps various timers running, like for example the thing that says Mega Man should be getting knocked back, or the thing that says a boss or someone should be in their invincibility frames. Those timers keep running down while the game is paused, so you can use the select button to repeatedly hit enemies with the same projectile. You can use it to cancel your damage knockback, and it gets a heck of a lot more use than any other Mega Man game by far.
Definitely, especially in Mega Man 1, where the knockback and the invisibility frames aren't always going to be your best friend. Sometimes there's a pit nearby for you, and as we saw for FishBowl's case in Bondman stage, there's always a spike just waiting to say hello to you.
Yeah, you can't even use your invincibility frames to walk on them, like we talked about before. So spikes are especially deadly in this game. FishBowl trying to deal with these, I think they're called Susies. Something about them makes me want to say lazy Susans, but it's not what they are, definitely. And now he's got such low health that he's forced to play it really safe on this screen. Yeah,
one thing to point out with some of our runners so far, when they got into low health, they've taken big risk and low rewards, routes with their options. And FishBowl here opting to pass up the big energy that's there. He has to be very careful here, because not only does he have spikes, but he also only has really one hit he can take. And he does not have the checkpoint until he makes it to Cutman's door, gets under the big mecha hopper. Thank goodness.
Wow.
That was a dicey situation. Meanwhile, Hypa did get the Magnet Beam and is now almost up to Electman's door. Goes over the giant side hopper, or excuse me, mega hopper, with the Magnet Beam. Good idea. I apologize. Too much Metroid in my life.
See what they can do on this vertical climb section with the Magnet Beam.
Oh no, FishBowl!
Yep. That was almost looked intentional there. I mean, he had Gutsman's weapon out, but he didn't even get a chance to pick the block up.
Hypa here, gonna have to be careful. He only has one hit. Collision or shot from Electman's gonna do it to him. And thank you, Abuse.
Yeah, Electman's you can choose to do the select glitch on him, but he also has a pretty interesting simple loop by throwing the boomerang once, hits him on the way there, hits him on the way back, keeping him pretty much in iframes the whole time, and then lets you wind up with another boomerang to deliver the final hit. But the select glitch there, the safer option, definitely. So buying himself any extra time he might need there is probably the right play. Heading into Electman stage now is FishBowl. Got a flash of a mouse cursor there, making sure the emulator is the active window. Struggling with this first screen. The screen is really, really hard. I was shocked when I played this game to discover how mean they went with this incredibly, like this is just a regular old stage. It's not like a weird ROM hack made by someone who's really sadistic. But those jumps are very, very precise, and they have those spike enemies on them, of course.
Absolutely.
Screwing things up even more.
And the only way you can take them out is using the rolling cutter or using a leg beam, which, by the way, you don't get to the end of the stage. Right now, Hypa in the mid-section of Iceman stage is struggling with the disappearing blocks. Only has one shot of magnet beam left, so this is going to be a difficult section for him, especially when he's coming up to the point where if he indeed gets shot while on these platforms, he can get knocked off. That's the one weird thing about these platforms is, but this is another case in point where your iframes don't do diddly for you. If you're shot on these platforms, you go flailing through the floor, which can be bad news for you.
He has safely made it to the refill, and he's got his magnet beams going. I saw him, I thought, doing the ice wrap out of the corner of my eye. I was talking about Electman stage, and I got caught up there. But clearly that did not get fully executed for him as he got caught in that tricky situation, but he's done a good job of digging himself out of it, and he's moving on now to the boss corridor.
Both these players pulling off some excellent saves from the rocky starts. They both have 3 bosses down. The only difference now at the moment is currently just about maybe over half a stage in between them, so it's not too close away for someone just slipping through.
I think what happened on that ice wrap was some sub-pixel shenanigans. Basically, you can do it right, and sometimes you are unable to jump onto the magnet beam in the second portion of the trick. Iceman is down. Hypa is going to be moving on to Fireman. Not using the ladder to set up his positioning on the zip, just jumping and placing it, gets it on the 4th try. Overall, still saving some time. And the magnet beam has been acquired for FishBowl, but he's not using it on these vertical sections in Electman stage.
He possibly, there we go, he's going to be saving it for this last half here, so that way he has all the magnet beams so he can quickly climb Electman's tower to the boss door. Not a bad strategy.
Yeah, he's definitely showing signs of being a newer player, and these are the strats that he's come up with that work for him. It's a very important thing to increase your consistency in a tournament like this. If you know you don't have the time to learn how to do it the way the top players do it, trying to emulate them is not going to go well for you at all. So you need to instead come up with what works for you. And we're seeing some of that here on FishBowl's screen as Hypa's going for the zip in Fireman stage. Looks like he wraps all the way around and grabs the ladder from the bottom. Not what you want to do. He's got enough magnet beams to try again, though.
But one thing I do want to point out that I did have a chance to actually sit down and talk to FishBowl earlier. Oh, goodness, that was a very close call with the elect beam being hit at him. Thankfully, oof! Unfortunately, still takes one to the face. As I was trying to say before that unfortunate moment, I was talking to him a little bit before his match, and He is a little bit rusty coming back from he was at TwitchCon. He does have a little bit of jet lag, but he's doing the best he can to fight this off, and he really wants to, do the very best he can. He knows of a few points where he can save himself some time. He just needs to get through the first 2 games to get to 3, where he thinks he has some key moments that can help him save time and get back in the race, in case he falls behind.
Well, fall behind is definitely what just happened to him there. A death all the way at the end of a Lekman stage. Very tricky stage. Any stage that goes vertically is almost inherently harder. Nice. Oh, the double KO! Ooh. He cleared that one projectile and landed on the second one that didn't even look like it had a chance to fire through all the sprite flicker, but obviously it did. Still not nearly as costly a death as the one FishBowl had, though.
That is definitely a Flamedoken to the face.
Fireman he throws those projectiles out, man. He doesn't care what is going on. He will fill the screen with those things, no problem.
Oh, that's my mouse cursor. Oops. What the heck?
Gotta click that checkbox for capture mouse cursor.
And it just reset everything on me. Go figure.
Great.
There we go. RNGesus, you fail me.
Hypa's moving into Bomb Man stage, and FishBowl having a bit of trouble with Elecman take 2. Oh, interesting. I did not know you had to reacquire the Magna Beam in this situation. Or, no, he does have the Magna Beam.
Yep.
It just reappears if you want it. Okay.
Yep, that's the one thing about this, which is nice. It does reappear if you go off screen, so you can recollect it in case you know, for the first time player that sits there and tests out, and it's like, oh, dang, I'm out of it. And then they go back, oh, hey, it's there. Click. Thank you.
Health situation a little dicey for him. As Hypa is in Bomb Man stage, setting up this zip. Even if it takes a while to set it up, it's worth it here on Bomb Man stage, one of the longest zips. And he does not over-zip, triggers the screen transition, so he's going to be fine.
I can definitely say this much for both players by watching both their screens. They're both currently on personal PB paces as long as they keep going good and strong. And Hypa is now down with Bomb Man, starts off by giving us a little PP love, going into Mega Man 2 with Flashman.
I feel at this point compelled to note that the birds in the background are called PPs. That is what he's talking about, and not anything else. Flashman, of course, is the very standard starting point for Mega Man 2. Don't think I've seen anything else in the tournament, and I can't imagine why. The item you get from Flashman is useful throughout most of the other stages, and he's pretty darn weak to the Buster. Makes it a perfect starting point. His stage also can't really be sped up very much by the other items. So Elecman is down this time. We're heading to Iceman stage. And we'll see if FishBowl is collecting these drops from these enemies. This is to avoid lag. Even having one drop on the screen will suddenly cause the lag to spike incredibly in that section. You'll lose entire seconds.
Especially right here in the water, we're already slowing down enough too, so extra lag doesn't help. Noticing he does have Magnet Bridge, but he's not using it. Again, he probably could be saving it for the later half of the stage. Not a bad choice. Meanwhile, Hypa just got Flashman down.
Yeah, very smooth fight from him. Hypa, FishBowl rather, is looking like he's pretty uncomfortable using the Magnet Beam, and I think in particular it has to do with placing the Magnet Beams after a jump. Because you're holding B to extend the Magnet Beam, and then you're pressing and holding A to jump, and then you're releasing B, but not A because you want to keep jumping, and then eventually you do want to release A so you can repress it. So your B and A inputs have your thumb kind of rocking back and forth in some pretty odd ways, and if you're not used to it, it's really easy to do something stupid with the Magnet Beam, and when you're hovering over a gigantic cliff, that's usually a death. So he's being very careful with the Magnet Beam, usually only placing it while he's standing on solid ground, and that means he needs to use a lot more of it. And again, he's really high up there on the screen. Yeah, he didn't give himself any more room to keep placing Magnet Beams.
That's the unfortunate thing too, is like, as soon as you spawn it, the bigger the spawn, the more it flickers, and the less time you have. Oh, Hypa, come on, ouch.
Slipping into the lava there early on Heatman stage. These tellies that are above I mean, you can jump fairly high and still avoid them. They're really more menacing than they are actually in your way. Plus, if you get these nice high jumps, you can just shoot them and get them out of your way.
So as I was trying to originally say, the magnet bridge, or magnet beam, whichever one you prefer to call it, once you extend it out a certain point, you have less and less time to stand on top of it, so you have to be careful about when you shoot it, how much you're shooting, and making sure you have your next setup going, and making sure you, again, don't climb too high, because then you'll accidentally either A, run off, or B, unfortunately fall to certain doom, because it, lets go before you're ready to let it go.
You can see the spacing on all of those bridges is because he's always standing on one to place the other one, and it's because he's really uncomfortable jumping and placing it. Particularly the maneuver of jumping it, placing it on the way up, and then using the rest of your jump to land on top of it. That is very, very useful for getting around quickly on the Magnet Beam, and it gives you a lot more options. But it's a technique he's not familiar with, so he has to make do with what he knows.
Noticing Hypa says good death in chat here. I'm wondering if he falls to Heatman. Out of that, he could have been commenting on his little lava bath trip.
Yeah, we'll see what exactly he means by it. He is playing it really safe on Heatman there, so I think it's going to be okay.
Yep, he's cool.
Not letting the heat get to him. It's possible to save some time on that fight by sticking very close to Heatman and shortening the distance of his charges, but it's pretty risky because Heatman moves really fast and he does a lot of damage if you screw up and do get hit. So what some players actually do is they pre-jump at the that's another thing. It is random when he jumps too, so you can't just predict when he's going to do it. A lot of players will do these little hops away from him at the 30, 60, or 90 frame intervals where he can decide the charge. And if he doesn't, then they turn back around and land next to him, and they do it again. And you end up doing this little dance with him. But it's really tricky, and it saves only a very, very small amount of time. And it's very easy to just die. So generally, I consider that a pretty advanced technique.
The other thing to note is sometimes, as you were mentioning, he has the 30, 60, and 90 frame intervals where he'll dash off. Sometimes he will catch you off guard if you play too close to Heatman, and he will surprise you with not even, a second in between the, him being shot to him full line at your face. So, again, you can take unintentional heavy body damage just because of the fact that, 1 second he's there, next thing you know, he's halfway inside you.
So we got death on fast air for Hypa. I think it was Hypa versus Antol where things got really out of hand in Airman stage. And I hope we do not have a repeat pattern. That one death has turned into several here because he wants to game over and get his weapon energy back to try again with this fast air strats. It's tricky. It is really tricky. I really recommend players sticking to air second, heat third until they are at a particular skill level that honestly it takes a long time to get to. But then again, some players, they like to just start learning the fastest stuff, and then whether or not they're actually good enough to make it work, they worry about later. They'll get there eventually.
Ouchie!
Yeah.
Fishbowl cornered himself, unfortunately.
He's set back quite a bit there in Fireman stage. Hypa, on the other hand, not set back, executing on fast air, though he took all the damage doing so. He's actually probably going to be hoping for a health drop at some point.
The one good thing here for Hypa, though, he does have item 1, so traversing Airman with Flashman's ability for the first and second half parts of the stage is not that bad. It's just, you know, surviving the PPs and, you know, the wind-blowing guys that, you know, really stink towards the later half of the second half of Airman stage.
Delicious, delicious health drop for Hypa. He's got all the health he needs for the Airman boss fight now, even if he gets all the worst patterns. Fishbowl contending with these spiky floor chaser Roomba enemies in Fireman stage. Ends up manipulating one to stay with him all the way along through the corridor and takes a bunch of damage, but he does not die, and that means he's free to continue on to the boss fight. Probably not going to have too much trouble since he seems to be familiar with the select glitch, but we saw Fireman is capable of throwing out a lot of projectiles, so if you are not on your select glitch game, you can absolutely get blown up here. He's actually overdoing it now, unpausing too soon, because he absolutely does not want to get hit, but then he still lets that projectile go quite a ways. No, you need to stop using the select glitch because that fire, it's not going to hit him again. And not picking up the... I guess you don't need to pick up the orb to satisfy the Robot Master being defeated condition for this category. Fireman is dead. That's all that matters. Moving on to Mega Man 2 and starting with Airman, not Flashman.
This is gonna be interesting. As you can see here, Hypa going for the, you know, crash clip. Very good job here. Fishbowl starting with Airman. A lot of people sometimes don't like to do Airman first, but if you're definitely confident enough and you know your way around it, you could do Airman first, because then you can go to Crashman and then start making your way through all the other stages. But, you know, again, it's up to the player's decision to, you know, think about their patterns and where they're going the moment they start the game, so that way they don't, you know, forget what they're going to be doing.
No, chat correcting me. The orb actually does need to be picked up after the last Robot Master in Mega Man 1. I assumed Fishbowl knew more than me.
So does that count as a DQ, or...?
Honestly, I think he's so far behind, and also clearly of not quite at Hypa's caliber, so it's probably not going to matter. Crashman has been ascended here, his stage rather, using all of the items you have at your disposal to speed up that section. It's pretty tricky. There's a lot of finesse to which way you're facing on the ladder and which pixels you place the items at. Hypa had a fairly solid climb and caps it off with a fairly solid boss fight.
Now the unfortunate thing here is, as Fishbowl's approaching Airman's door, this puts him almost 3 bosses behind, so again, his strats for Mega Man 3 better be as good as he's thinking they're gonna be. He definitely needs a lot of love to get through this section here.
See what kind of Airman fight you can come up with. not really trying to sneak in some shots over top of those lower tornadoes. It is very tricky, but he's not even going to try it, looks like. Gets him on the jump over to the left-hand side. About a little less than average airman fight from him as whoop. Hypa getting stuck on a ledge there for a little bit with a quick beam approaching. Manages to slip by. And he's got these item ones out, so it's looking like he's going to zip. The placement just barely correct to get him into that ceiling. He's going to turn around to keep the lights on. And he's going to try to execute on this final quick beam section here.
Interesting choice here, going through the second half of Quickman stage by Hypa. Playing it really good and smart, thankfully, so it does not do him too much. He did have a couple quick close calls, but again, he does get through without a scratch, so not too bad overall.
We're seeing a gate crash zip here from Hypa. This is an incredibly risky maneuver. That's why he's wiggling so much on this zip, because if he overzips, it is a soft lock situation. Thankfully, he does not. Triggers the screen transition. He's going to be free to walk into the boss room. And he's got tons of health, so I doubt Quickman's going to be a problem here.
And he had Crash Bomb, so, again, free victory.
Yeah, it can be pretty tricky to hit Quickman with them sometimes, especially with the pattern he got. Quickman has a habit of jumping all the way over to that bottom left corner. And from there, it's pretty easy to jam the Crash Bombs in his face, but Quickman never actually hit that wall, stayed closer towards the middle, and that means your chances of missing him with your Crash Bombs goes up a little bit, but still solidly landing all of them. Pretty good Quickman fight, moving on to Middleman. As FishBowl losing a bunch of time in Crashman stage because he is not familiar with the zip. Look at how long these platforms go. He could switch to item 1 and get up there, but
ordinarily, I wouldn't,
again, going back to the magnet beams of
that
jumping and hitting the button, the B button in midair while continuing to hold the A button and jumping on top of the platform you just placed. He seems to be really uncomfortable doing that maneuver, so he's really not getting as much out of his item 1s as he could be.
I need to wait until Mega Man beams, then I do appreciate someone telling me now. Thank you.
Hypa falls off the item 2. Halfway across the ride here in Middleman stage, got past the tricky parts, and then blew it a little bit on the easier parts at the end. Holding the B button as he enters Middleman's fight. Thankfully, Middleman is not triggered to do much of anything until you press the B button. If you're already holding it when you enter the fight, you won't do anything. The other trigger for him to act is to cross the halfway point of the screen, but your boomerangs reach far enough that you can basically camp out on the left side of the screen and finish him off easy peasy. FishBowl has finally reached the top of Crashman stage. Shooting his air shooter off to the wrong side there on that second hit, but finishes up. It's going to be moving on as Hypa used his item 2 early on in Woodman stage, so that indicates to me that he's going to be doing the good wood zip. He's going for the dog zip here, and he doesn't get it, so he's going to take a death here. And I'm not sure what his life situation is, but that could affect his ability to do the good wood zip later on, because you do need an extra life so you can die and respawn in the boss corridor.
Oh hey, he still manages to get a dog zip though. Not bad. And he still has an extra life, so that doesn't diminish too much.
shooting to the music. I'm not sure which audio we're playing from these two players, but
We're playing Hypus now, because unfortunately FishBowl did start talking, so I did move over to Hypus.
so we do get to see the synchronization and shooting to the music and doing everything he can to pause and cancel his vertical speed to extend his fall just a little bit more to grab the ladder and complete the Goodwood zip. That's the scary moment there. And he's past it. He's got Heatman's weapon out, and he's releasing it at the right times. We got some Goodwood, courtesy of Hypa. He's going to be moving on to the boss fight. Here's the item 2 being put to use in Flashman stage. You're not going to see this very often. And then the crash bombs to blow open the gate so he can pick up the E-Tank. Really liking the creativity there.
It helps, it gives him a backup in case he has problems going into, like, you know, Heatman or Quickman's fight, so that helps him out a lot. And now we have chat going all over the place with good wood, decent wood, okay wood, somewhat wood.
Wood.
One person saying that he's got nice wood. Yeah. Chat's crazy some days.
Apparently sunglasses became a thing at some point. Hypa again doing the strategy where he rides the item 2 and positions himself perfectly so he does not have to worry about the frogs from the third giant frog. Looking nice and cool as he rides that thing off and sets up for the bubble zip. I think he had a bit of trouble with this last time, but that placement looks good.
Got him.
FishBowl is hesitating on the item get screen there for a little bit. Was maybe counting on that long cutscene being just a little longer.
So definitely want to point out once again that at the moment, so far, both players are currently on PB paces for themselves. Hypa definitely on a good PB base at the moment. Definitely wanting to pull out a good show.
Yeah, after his play from the last race he did, he looked really solid and really consistent in some spots, and then in other spots it was just a complete disaster. So I'm thinking that those were flukes. Those moments where everything went off the rails, and I'm looking forward to what happens when that doesn't happen. Has a nice clean run that can really indicate what he's capable of.
So now Hypa is heading into Gemini first, starting with the Unholy Trinity's, worst boss. Not a bad choice. This does give him a little bit of an edge of getting the worst stage in the first, in the first, section of this out of the way.
Yeah, this is a really awful stage. It could be argued that maybe the better option is to come here later so that you've got the various weapons and stuff you can use to make this awful stage a little less awful. But you're right, having it out of the way is an advantage in its own right. Getting the proto skip but missing the zip there, not a big time saver, but it's always fun to see if players pull it off.
And now
not
the sound
many
of
zips
silence.
left. Yep. One of the advantages of the proto skip is, of course, skipping the cutscene, but the other one that's not so apparent is turning off the music actually prevents a whole lot of lag.
Because unfortunately, some of the sound effects and the way the music is played is on like the same sprite as Mega Man's shot and fire and movement. So having the music off reduces the lag a little bit, which definitely helps out in the end. Again, noticing here, Hypa trying to do the one-dial dashes here is unfortunately having a little bit of trouble at the moment.
Yep, he's got Rush Coil to get out of this situation. Thought he had it there, but he paused a little too early. I'm not sure what he's trying to do with these menus.
I think he was trying to time it so just as, you know, he hit Rush Coil, he was going to unpause and keep going, but unfortunately did not work out in his favor as he planned.
So he's got the E-Tank. Won't be surprised to see him use that right away. Sure enough.
Not a bad choice. He has one in reserve, and he's definitely going to need one in reserve if his strats here for Gemini Man are a little shaky. We will see coming up, though.
Yeah, doing this fight with the Buster, you're probably going to take a hit or two. It is really fun, though. Once you get in the middle of these two guys, they just go nuts left and right. Things slow down, bullets go flying. And in the end, hopefully you're left with a Gemini Man to fight. It's possible to kill both of them too quickly for the game to realize that one of them is dead. And the real Gemini Man never spawns after that, and you end up with a soft block. It's an incredibly rare thing. I didn't think I would have to mention it in the Gemini Man fight, but it's happened 3 times in the tournament so far, and so I can only think about that potential for that horrible situation every time I see a Gemini Man fight now.
But Hypa did throw hams, made sure to catch himself, and did get the one Gemini to spawn, thankfully, so Gemini Man is down for him. Meanwhile, Fishbowl is entering Metal Man's room, and I think this is like the first or second time he's actually pulling out a boss's weakness to fight them.
Yeah, he seems hesitant to switch to anything other than the Buster. He's been had opportunities to use the various items to speed up sections of the stages. Magnet Beam, items 1, 2, 3, but tends to stick with that Buster quite a bit.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with sticking with familiarity in case you're not 100% sure on how something works, so that's not a bad thing overall.
He's going to be going to Bubble Man before Woodman. Normally that doesn't really make a difference, but for the 46 Robot Masters category, generally you want to finish with Bubble because of the extra lag involved with the cutscene after he is defeated. You can skip when he is the last one you need to defeat for Mega Man 2. You can just move on to the next game.
Good lasers. Also, side note to the chat, Massachusetts is not a hard to pronounce or state. I live there, for crying out loud.
Well, that would be... Of course you would think that if you lived there.
Well, considering half the half the words that we have in this town, seriously. Like, seriously, like, for example, you think Worcester. No, it's Worcester.
Worcester.
Yep, it's called Worcester.
Got it. Now I know. If I'm ever in Massachusetts and I want to blend in.
Yeah, feel free, hit me up. I live in Plymouth, no big deal.
None of the other players are in Plymouth. They're in Spark Man stage and Bubble Man stage. We've got Needleman is his weapon is a soft weakness for Spark Man, so this is a good opportunity for Hypa to get in here. Because there's 3 sort of closed loops of boss weaknesses in Mega Man 3, and at some point you'll need to break out of one and get into the other. As for Bubble Man, we're seeing the Quick Boomerang pulled out to deal with all of these frogs. Metal Blade is the more popular choice because it is also Bubble Man's weakness.
You can go with either or. I mean, both Quick Boomerang and Metal Blade have, a high ammunition count, but I do believe that Metal Blade does more damage quicker to the frogs and its little spawnlings.
You're also seeing the extra menu here because he is going to use the Metal Blades on Bubble Man. And he is going to have to wait for these bubbles to go off screen and the explosions, and eventually he will get through this very long delay here that he could have avoided if he had done this stage last.
So the interesting thought process here is noticing that Hypa used needles to take out Sparkman.
Yeah, so, oh gosh, what is Sparkman's actual weakness?
Sparkman's actual weakness is Shadow Blades.
Is it the Shadow Blades? I thought that was another soft weakness situation.
That's also Magnet Man's weakness, I believe, too. Surprisingly.
Yeah, the weakness, there's a lot of muddiness with hard weaknesses and multiple soft weaknesses in Mega Man 3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he does not have Shadow's weapon, he has Sparkman's weapon. Or Needle's weapon, rather. So he's going to beat Sparkman, and I guess he's going to use that for Magnet Man.
Well, it does work, because Spark is traditionally, you know, Magnet Man's base weakness, but then Shadow Blade also does the same amount of damage, so either or could work. The difference is Shadow Blade at least fires faster, so you can make it in for the iframes.
Hypa having a really solid Proto Man fight there.
Solid indeed. Didn't miss a beat and didn't get hit once.
We're off to Heatman stage rather late here in Mega Man 2. And we're not zipping, so this section actually very difficult. Well, it looks like we are zipping. We're zipping backwards thanks to the Yoku block. Ejected out the left side and into the pit. That is the reason why you need to be facing left when you do zips. And that's another reason why this section is so hard.
Yeah, definitely as a kid when I was playing these games, this one section just, you know, never ceased to, you know, make me happy, just because I get here and go, oh god, here we go, and it's like, you know, you try to time your jumps, you're trying to get the timing down for them, and then you're like, I got this! Push! Well, I don't got this.
You're dead.
Well, sugar.
Also dead is Magnet Man, obliterated pretty quickly by Sparkman's weapon. And we're through some of that scary stuff at Heatman stage, but there are more blocks left. He has the item 2 here. We'll see if he's comfortable using it to skip this section. He is.
I was about to say that looked like that item 2 use was a little late and a little low, because there is a chance that one of the Yoku blocks, one of the lower ones, can pop up mid-flight and knock you off, so thankfully that did not happen.
Hypa pausing a little bit at the start of Hardman stage. I think he was typing in chat. Maybe with some other distraction. Hopefully it is not a controller disconnect issue. Oh nice, using the rush coil there to take out the B. I like that strategy. We have the weakness for Heatman, so this fight goes a lot more smoothly. FishBowl gets him down, which is good because he was pretty low on health. Hypa slipping off of rush coil, which is not going to get him the heights he needs to deal with these monkeys who lag the game as they bounce along behind him.
Well, thankfully he wasn't getting monkey spanked down there, so that does save him a little bit of time, though.
Yeah, it's really easy once you get hit by one to get hit by a whole bunch of them.
Oh yeah, once the one starts in, and if you miss, like, you know, using, you know, Sparkman's weapon to stun it, or, you know, missing with the magnets to kill it, you know, one adds up, and the other one adds up, and then you're pretty much stuck down there, hoping that your iframes sooner or later let up, so that way you can, you know, make it through.
Make it through is exactly what happened. Doesn't care about these bees, gonna slide on past them. Entering another Proto Man fight.
Nice solid slide and dodge there. Very good job.
We can see FishBowl is in Woodman stage. He is not using the item 2 on the first screen. So I'm guessing that means he's going to use it on the second last screen, rather. And that means he's probably not going to be doing the Goodwood Zip. That was a really unfortunate death to Hardman there. He's out of magnets. He's going to have to buster this fight now.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, because this is not a situation you want to be in, because Bustering him takes 1 damage, and he's gonna do about 3 to 4 damage with his fist. He's gonna do about 6 to 7 with hitting you with his body, so it's not a situation you want to be in if you're not too familiar with the fight. Hypa's cutting it really close here. He's almost down to a 4th of his life left. He's down to 1 hit left. He needs to be more careful here. Gets it.
Man.
Whew.
Just barely winning the DPS race there.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard an RPG term come up in a Mega Man game.
It's apt, it works. It's exactly what's happening there. You're fighting him, he's fighting you, and there's not really too much attempt to dodge anything. It's whoever deals the most damage first. And he is the one to deal the most damage first. He comes out on top of that fight. He's going to be moving on to Top Man. As we're seeing no item 2 come out from Fishbowl, he is just going to walk it through this chicken section here.
I am liking Fishbowl's strategy though here. He is trying to play it safe. He is trying to get, his head ready for what's coming up ahead. It's a good thought process sometimes, again, if you're not too familiar with the route, or if you're not too familiar with the zips, or how it works, or what the weakness thing to use is, that you take your time, that you plan your shots, and you get in what you need to get in. And Fishbowl just got done with Woodman. He's now on to Mega Man 3.
Made up some time, according to his splits in Mega Man 2. We got a missed Gemini laser from Hypa. Forced to watch it bounce around the screen, lagging everything. You never want to mess with the Gemini laser.
No, you don't. It's just as bad as missing with Crystal Eyes. Ugh.
So he's got the magnets out for the second cat, which is you have to be pretty comfortable with mashing and making sure the magnet does not turn up early. It's a little tricky to make the magnets do what you want them to sometimes. But he looked really comfortable getting the 5 magnets down on that cat without stopping. Playing it a little safe on the section before the boss room. Not going for any of the crazy jumps. Both players actually on the same stage now. I'm curious to see what Fishbowl has in mind with a top 3 start here. Generally, one of the more complicated, difficult routes. He said he had something in mind, as of Mega Man 3, to use as an edge over his opponent.
He was going to use the Gemini, skip for Proto Man to help him out there a little bit, and then he was talking about early Rush Jet too. So I'm going to see if we're going to see here if he can pull this off. But starting with top first, that is an interesting choice because it's not always the most, noob-friendly route to take.
Absolutely not. You can see him losing a lot of time having to mash down some of these mini bosses and dealing with some of the sections here in Top Man stage, and it only gets worse once he gets to Shadow Man stage. At this point, though, I don't expect him to follow the traditional top first route, so I don't know if we'll see an early Shadow Man necessarily.
We shall see what we shall see.
Also worth noting, he's not sliding very much at all, and even when he is, he's canceling it with jumps. Really looking unfamiliar with chaining the slides together.
Fishbowl's having a little bit of trouble with Top Man here. He's on his 5th or 6th cycle through the fight. Finally gets him down, while Hypa is on his way through the clouds through Snake Man.
Yeah, you need to be really comfortable with sliding and getting in a bunch of turnaround shots in order to be hitting Top Man while also not just simply trading hits, basically. And he didn't really have the HP to continuously trade hits, so he's unfamiliar with the slides there, hurting him in his ability to get as many hits in on Top Man in between his spins as he can. But he does eventually get him down, and he is going to Shadow Man, so this could be pretty dicey. Snake Man is down for Hypa. Was looking like he was moving pretty smoothly. There was a section with those pole vaulters that I think gave him some trouble in his last race, so it's good to see him get through there cleanly this time.
FishBowl here. Interesting strats for the Proto Man fight. Decides to stick to the right wall instead of following him and blasting away at him. We'll see how much this actually, pays off for the other Proto Man fight he's going to have to do in Maggot Man.
Well, pace off is maybe not the way to look at it. I mean, I guess if you say compared to like trying to execute on a faster strat and just simply not being able to. I mean, clearly the doing it his way is the thing you want to do, but it is definitely slower to do that. But I'm not surprised to see him go for something like that, because that exact inputs of tapping A and mashing B is the kind of thing that he's been uncomfortable doing in Mega Man 1 and 2 so far. So Proto Man kind of takes that same skill set and ups it to 11. Yeah, so these parachute guys are the reason why Top Man stage is so scary, and or Top Man first rather, that route is so scary, because all you have to deal with them is Top Man's weapon, whereas we can see Hypa blows through that section with the magnets no problem. Perfect indication of why the top first route is very difficult. With the death of Shadow Man, we can see that Hypa is moving on to Mega Man 4, is now about 6 stages ahead of his opponent, and with another death in Shadow Man's stage, and that might be one last life.
Yep, this is his last life, so FishBowl really needs to get across this pit and take out Shadow Man, otherwise he's gonna have to restart the stage. And we're coming down on the last 2 minutes within the first hour. We have almost 7 Robot Masters and almost 1 game between these two racers. It's literally going to be a very uphill climb for FishBowl, and he's going to have to hurry and make whatever he needs to do work to make sure he can catch up in time. Because I have a feeling once Hypa passes his first 3 Robot Masters in 4, if FishBowl is nowhere near getting to 4, it's unfortunately going to be the curtain call, which would suck.
Honestly, I'm prepared to call this race already. I'm not too familiar with FishBowl as a player, so it's possible that he is actually incredibly good at Mega Man's 4, 5, and 6, but just given the way he's been really unfamiliar with some of the basic movement mechanics in these first 3, I would be shocked if,
Ouchie!
If he had what he needed to come back here. Yet runs out of Top Man's weapon by getting stuck inside Shadow Man's hitbox.
Double
while
ouchie.
He had his invincibility frames.
Triple ouchie.
Yeah, both players dying there.
FishBowl, unfortunately.
Hypa in Pharaoh Man stage, FishBowl in Shadow Man stage.
Yeah, FishBowl ran out of top energy because unfortunately he stayed inside Shadow Man's hitbox too long during the fight. So unfortunately now has to Buster, has no alternative lives, has no energy tanks. Hypa on the last section of Pharaoh Man stage was riding the balloons and just forgot about the ledge and went slamming backwards. Yeah, unfortunately it does look like, Yep, FishBowl unfortunately took the down, so now he's going to have to redo Shadow Man stage.
Yeah, that is a tough fight with the Buster. Clearly showing some unfamiliarity with that fight as well. And you've got Top Man's weapon. It's an entirely different fight. You barely even get to see what Shadow Man does. But with the Buster, you can see he's very unpredictable. and you need to know what he's capable of and what he's going to do if you want to have a good chance of even beating him, let alone doing it quickly.
I really gotta get myself a second monitor.
Yeah, as someone who's done restreams like this before, screen real estate is definitely an issue. You've got like 10 things open and half of them are all layered on top of each other.
Well, I have a 1600 by 14 something. I forget what the actual dimensions is, but it's still a cluster muck. But as we can see, Hypa going for Pharaoh Man first, gets Pharaoh Man down, did also pick up Balloon, and is now going to Bright Man second. I think he's using the balloon to help him get across the stage quicker, and probably will still end up bustering Bright Man nonetheless, but very interesting strat to choose for.
Bright Man, you can use Pharaoh Man's weapon and it will speed up the fight.
Really?
But going Pharaoh first is the absolute fastest strat. But it only saves about 3 seconds over going Bright first, and it is much harder to deal with Pharaoh Man stage first. Bright Stopper goes a long way in Pharaoh Man stage, whereas Pharaoh Shock doesn't do too much for you in Buster's stage. But still, it is just a little bit faster if you're able to take advantage of everything. So Hypa showing a lot of familiarity with Mega Man 4. This was the case in his last race too. He really started to hit his stride around Mega Man 4. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can come up with. His totem poles only take 3 shots. Yeah, that is a close fight from Fishbowl, dealing with Shadow Man this time. 2 health left. Glad to get that scary situation over with.
So if Fishbowl can pull together what he needs to after this stage, he could have a chance to actually make a recovery. It's going to be a very big and long recovery, don't get me wrong here, folks, but it's still going to be possible to get a recovery nonetheless. And okay, now I see what's going on. He's going to use Shadow Blade in an attempt to Shadow Blade Needle Man. I see where you're going.
It's hard to see where you're going with regards to Shadow Man.
So here's the thing, with Needle Man, his true weakness, as everyone knows, is the Gemini Laser, but as an alternative thing, if you're good enough and talented enough, Shadow Blades do 2 damage versus the Plasma doing 1, so if you can do this and you can pull it off, you know, it will be worth it. But, you know, again, you're gonna have to make it work, though. So we're gonna definitely have to see if, you know, if this is gonna pay off by him using, you know, Shadow Man's weapon on Needle Man. I'm unfortunately not too confident in doing this myself.
So Bright Man is down for Hypa. Had a pretty solid fight. Made sure not to have Bright Man get down to either 16, 8, or 4 hit points. Exactly, that is when he will hit you with the Flash Stopper attack. So basically controlling how much damage you deal to him and using charge shots to skip over those HP values. You'll make sure he never uses it. Pulling out the balloons for Ringman stage and was looking pretty good till he slid a little bit too far and got stuck sliding under that block and downwards to the screen below. Second time around does get the screen right, and also gets a couple wall jumps in there as well. Wall jumps look like wall jumps, they're not really. You're sticking the balloon inside the wall, which causes it to despawn, and then you are jumping off of it while it is despawning, which sounds like an incredibly complex maneuver, but the window is actually surprisingly generous to do it, and if you mess around with it for about an hour or so, you'll probably find you're surprisingly consistent at it.
Alright, so Fishbowl is now starting Needleman's fight. Did pick up the energy tank on the way in. Looks like he intentionally took it down there during that fight. I'm not 100% sure.
It definitely wasn't going well for him off the bat, so it's possible that he saw that, read that situation, and said, all right, I'm going to take a death here rather than eat up the E-Tank.
Oof. The one thing he needs to be careful about, though, is playing so close to Needleman's face. The worst part about it is the body collision and the head spike that comes off Needleman. That does almost 7 points of damage, and that's... You can tank it, but you don't want to tank it too much, because then you'll start to lose immediate ground while trying to fight him.
Yeah, not the kind of attack that you can trade with, especially when you're fighting him with Shadowman's weapon. He's running low on ammo.
Gets it done, though. Meanwhile, Hypa almost had a close call himself.
Yeah, so if you go all out in Ringman stage, you use all of your health damage boosting to skip all the mini-bosses, and that means you get to Ringman himself, unable to take any damage at all. Thankfully, he is very predictable, will always do the same thing. So if you're confident enough, and a lot of players eventually do get to the point where they're okay walking in there with those just 2 health remaining, and using the Pharaoh shot and the double hit technique with the Pharaoh shot, basically by charging the attack above your head and hitting an enemy with that, you can still shoot another fully charged shot out, and that lets you get a 2-for-1 with it. Using that, you can hit Ringman 5 times fairly quickly and not have to worry about dodging his patterns for too long. Makes that fight somewhat consistent, but as you can say, any boss fight you have to do with 2 health is still at least a little bit scary, so I'm sure Hypa is going to be glad to be done with that, though he does mean he does have to move on to Dustman stage next, maybe the scariest part of a Mega Man 4 run. For the 46 Robot Mastery run, anyway.
Personally, though, I don't find Dustman to be all that too intimidating, minus the Dust Crusher section. The one place I really find that, you know, troubles start to add up sometimes definitely comes in around Diveman and Skullman, just because, you know, with Diveman, you do have some points where you have instant death traps, very close slide under the Dust Crusher by Hypa, and also with Skullman, you have a lot of enemies that can do a lot of damage fast, especially the skeletons in the last section. They can knock you off if you don't take them out right away.
We'll see how he deals with those situations as he gets to them, because he did a pretty good job of dealing with Dustman's Dust Crusher section there. The rising blocks as well, lagging the game. That's always a scary moment, but he's showing no signs of slowing down through the first half of Mega Man 4. As FishBowl busts out the Rush Jet for Sparkman stage, and it's just crawling to the other side. So much lag.
For real, the lag is real, ladies and gentlemen. That's one of the one reasons you don't want to use Rush Jet in that one section, because it just literally crawls across the screen on you. And you're literally just crawling as the lug nuts are spawning into one to each other, and you're constantly spawning a new one, so it's like one more adds up, and then one more adds up, and then one more adds up. It's like, legitimately, you're wasting almost about 10 to 20 seconds rush jetting that section.
He does eventually get Sparkman down. Sitting through the weapon, we get cutscene as Hypa gets ready to take on Skullman stage. We're going to see if he's going to switch to the balloon. He is, so we're going to hopefully get a zip here. Just missed it. And he is menuing away from it. Took him a while to find the Bright Stopper.
Interesting thing to note with the Bright Stopper here, if you can flash enemies before they're on screen, certain ones that normally only have invulnerabilities to their back or front side, you can start damaging them, because technically it does not count them being, you know, in their invincible frame, being either the forward facing or the back facing, so that way you can actually score a bunch of free hits. Case in point, those flying shields that went by, and there's going to be an enemy coming up shortly on Hypa's screen that normally you can only shoot them in the eye, so this really helps out and saves some time.
The chat seems upset that he did not reattempt that zip. Too bad, folks. It's his race, he can do what he wants. We got Magnet Man from Fishbowl, he's pretty low on health here. He's gonna go ahead and pick up the health on the top of the section. And he's got the rush jet, so he does not have to deal with these annoying Yoku blocks. Missing Skullman with the Dust Crusher weapon. Probably not going to get the damage in that he needs to kill him before a second shield. Yep, there it is.
That's unfortunately the finishing thing when it comes to Skullman himself, is part of that fight is written on, you know, an algorithm to at certain points where he'll pop the shield, and part of it's also RNG where he'll just, you know, randomly decide that, you know what, I'm not going to let you hit me, and just pop his shield on you. So you have to be quick in order to, you know, get him down before he starts shielding.
Well, he will react to your inputs, basically. So you can predict when that shield is going to come out. The random element is how long he keeps the shield up. And so you could see on that second shield, Hypo was trying to predict when it would come down, and you saw him actually fire one into Skullman's shield, and that was him just hoping that the shield would come down at that point, but it didn't, so he had to wait a little bit to deliver that final hit. But overall, not losing too much time. Skullman, not really a big sticking point, not something players are typically too worried about, unless something really bad happens in the stage and you go in there with a low health situation.
Alright, so we got Hypa who's doing Dive Man stage. It's just about halfway through it now. Meanwhile, Fishbowl is now moving on to Hard Man.
Looking pretty good in Dive Man stage here, controlling his slides. It is not possible to jump out of a slide. Trying to use the balloon to skip the whale mini-boss, I think. Eventually pulling out the Bright Stopper.
This is an interesting choice.
Faster. Oh, this is why. He's trying to take damage. I think he's going to grab the wire here, just for fun. I saw him in chat. He's got some friends in chat, basically, who he's funning around with. So I wasn't surprised if he was going to try to do some kind of crazy kill-yourself play while picking up the wire. But clearly he's just having some fun, it looks like. He knows he's got the lead that he has, and he seems really confident in his ability to play the last few Mega Man games coming up. Some might call this bad manners, some might call this swag. I'll leave it up to the viewers to decide.
I honestly believe that there's always a fine difference between, you know, showing off slash swag slash, you know, just downright belittling your opponent. And I think Hypa's just trying to have a little fun with the expense of the audience being involved.
He pulls out the wire. Dodging Drillman's attack. It's a brilliant maneuver. Outweighting the missile. Oh, a little too short, though, so he is going to take a hit. And he's going to continue to do this fight the way a speedrunner would, by jumping upwards and manipulating his drill attacks to be as short as possible, dropping on top of him with the Skull Shield.
That was Dive Man.
Dive Man does the drill attacks. Drill Man does the dive attacks.
You kept calling him Drill Man the entire fight, that's why I
Because
said
he
that.
drills! He's the drill man. He's the man who drills. We got Hard Man up top. making sure he does not waste his magnets here, though he does end up wasting one. If you use magnets during the stage, I just realized his ammo is actually pretty good, because he opted not to use magnets during the stage. It speeds it up, but it gives you potential to not have quite enough to finish off Hardman. And we saw Hypa do that fight with the Buster, so that is not a situation you want to be in at all. He took steps to make sure he didn't find himself in that situation. Gets Hardman down, picks up the hard knuckle as Hypa moves into the diving drill man.
Well, he dived alright. Right into a drill. Yeesh.
He's going to be respawning start of the stage. Pulling out the wire and trying to screen transition with it doesn't work like that. Not that I knew, because I don't know anything about the wire, because I always watch the speedruns where no one does anything with the wire. He's just going to take a death while messing around with it.
The one thing I do know about the wire is you can only shoot it up, and it does escalate you to a higher point, so if you don't want to use your balloons and you have the chance to use it, you can use the wire. I don't usually see a lot of speedrunners, have a use for the wire, so they normally don't touch it, so that's the one thing that there is to note about it. It is a nice accessory tool for those that are doing the casual run, that, want an extra boost to get across some stuff, but normally you don't see it used in a speedrun.
Yeah, which is a shame, because it's a cool idea, and it's the kind of thing that could be used to traverse a room quickly. It's just the implementation of it makes it very limited.
If it was more, say, Bionic Commando style / like Terraria, where you could shoot it in the direction that you want, and use it to traverse that way, it would probably be a more versatile tool, but unfortunately, it's not so good like that. It's just, it shoots up.
Yeah. And it completely kills your forward momentum while you ride it up to the top of the screen.
Oh yeah. And coming back down, you literally have no momentum going to either direction you're going, so you're gonna move maybe 5 or 6 pixels forward, at most.
Also coming back down is FishBowl into this pit in Spikeman stage. He is respawned here. He's got all the health he needs, but he's still gonna climb up and grab the health refill. I guess that's just some muscle memory in action. I'm not sure what his health, rush jet ammunition situation is. Maybe we'll get a look.
Pretty good.
Out. Yeah, there it is. So he's going to pull it out for the screen here.
So while FishBowl flies through the crowds, Hypa's going to deal with Dive Drillman here. Again, this is the 3rd time he's dived in the fight. Having a little bit of difficulty trying to make sure he doesn't go back down.
Yeah, you can stick close to him, and that will make him favor not diving as much as if you're far away. But hiding from the drill attacks on the top of the screen. Apparently, this is a good way to manipulate no more dives.
Well, hey.
Oh, wow, he's so close to just nicking him there every time he jumps up.
Good point of reference.
Alright, lands, gives him the dive missile, point blank.
Alright, so at an hour and almost 20 minutes in, Hypa just has Toadman left. Meanwhile, FishBowl just has Gemini left. Interesting strat to put Gemini last.
Search Snake is technically Gemini Man's true weakness. So doing it after Snake means he does have that available to him.
That does make sense. The alternative weakness is you could use Hardman's weapon. Sorry, I didn't mean to run over you.
Well, I'm just trying to picture, because I've never seen the snakes used on Gemini Man, but I'm pretty sure it actually destroys him very, very quickly. So I was just trying to picture how that fight would go with the snakes versus Hardman's weapon.
About 2 to 3 snakes and about maybe, 4 to 5 fists, depending on how good your timing is. Honestly, I do believe that Hypa's method to sit there and ricochet back and forth shooting at the two Geminis to pretty much tank down Gemini's enemy was the faster strat. But unfortunately, Hypa here in Toadman stage does get past the first tricky part, but unfortunately falls in the second part of it.
Yeah, that's not quite far enough to hit any checkpoints, so he's back to the start of the screen. Toadman stage is difficult. There's a lot of things that change your speed, but only when you're in certain states, whether you're in midair or on the ground or sliding, it all gets affected in various ways depending on if you're in the rain section or the running water section or neither. So it can be pretty tricky to keep your feet in Toadman stage.
Yes, especially just because, again, with the running water and the rain, you're being pushed one direction, and oof! Game over. Small price to pay, but it's not too damaging for Hypa.
I can't imagine he's too worried about it at this point. He's definitely written off this run as you know, a solid time to put up on the tournament or a new PB or anything. He's clearly willing to spend some time as long as he still gets the W. All the same, though, I don't think he is too happy to be dying in places like this. Maybe eventually this will get to him, and he'll start to tighten up his play a little bit.
FishBowl here was trying to fist the penguin in the eyes, did not get it, so unfortunately that does send him back to the start of Gemini Man stage, which is unfortunate because the checkpoint isn't until the Rush Marine section.
Yeah, this is a horrible, horrible death to take. Gemini Man stage is very long and very complicated, dealing with all these enemies dropping the flames. The penguins have a lot of health. I'm surprised he... Well, actually, I don't know what his ammo situation is now that he has died. But generally, players will pull out something like Magnet to deal with this screen, because it's a horrible, horrible screen.
Generalistically, the way I run, I always have Needleman going into this area, so I legit just pull out, you know, the Needle Buster and just start shooting everything in sight, because, you know, it does more damage than the regular Buster, and you have a pretty good, decent ammo count with it, unlike Shadow Blades. I think Shadow Blades has just a touch more, but it doesn't make a real difference. You can literally just use the needles to plow through everything. What is Hypa doing? Is he seriously...
Whatever he wants.
He's gonna use every weapon in the universe on Toadman, isn't he?
Yep. He's looking for a soft weakness, perhaps, to have some fun with. Decides, I'm just gonna kill him. That is the end of Mega Man 4 for Hypa. He's going to be moving on to 5. I have no idea what he has in store for us. But it could be something a little non-standard.
Alright, so we're now just past the hour 20 mark. We now have almost a full game between our runners. I don't think I've ever seen this type of thing happen before. Hypa here, gonna have to be a little bit more careful. He's on his last 4 hits. Thankfully, the floatiness of, you know, Starman stage does allow him to get some key jumps in to help avoid getting, you know, impaled and or hit by anything else.
Not pulling out the Rush Marine, but rather the Rush Jet for Gemini Man stage. Pretty much the same thing, just more versatile.
Yeah, the only difference is with Rush Jet, he's more versatile, but the thing is, it's also Rush Jet is adding just a little extra unnecessary lag because you're not down there shooting the torpedo fish, so... It's a risky maneuver, but it does pay off by you not having to, you know, fall into stuff. Oof, Hypa! legitimately getting star crushed.
Yeah, he just ran straight into him. He assumed that he would get his last shot off before his iframes ran out, I suppose. Mistiming it just a little bit. He's going to have to redo this fight.
Alright, Fishbowl is now down with Gemini Man. This will put him on Mega Man 4. And at the same time, Hypa just finished Starman.
It puts him about 9 Robot Masters ahead of his opponent. Nail in the coffin has already been put in. Several nails. The coffin has been put most of the way into the ground at this point. It's just about both players finishing now. He's got the super arrow now that he has defeated Starman, so he's going to be going to Gravity Man stage. We're going to get to see him play around with that weapon. Incredibly useful for speedruns, lets you ascend quickly, vertically, horizontally, does damage.
It also lets you pull off
does pretty much everything.
Yeah, pretty much does just as you said, everything. It can be used as a weapon, it can be used as a platform, it can be used as a, new rush jet. You can use it for glitching, you can pretty much use it for whatever you feel like using it for. And I do believe that there is a boss in the Proto Man sections that is actually weak to Super Arrow. We won't see it, unfortunately, but...
Yeah, in the 46 Robot Masters category, but just further giving the spotlight to the Super Arrow, deserving of all the praise it gets.
In addition to things that, we're not going to see, one thing I do want to, point out too is, you'll notice on this, screen here that they're collecting multiple different letters. If you did not know, if you collect all the letters for Rockman/Mega Man 5, it unlocks Beat the Bird, which is, very, very useful for the later stage games, or later stages in the game. You won't be able to see it used, in the runs like these, because people aren't going to pick them up, because some of them are a bit touch out of the way of you actually timing to get your speed down, so... It's sort of a gambit for, those who are actually trying to do a full speed run of the game, and it's just a fun weapon to use, though, overall.
Yeah, Beat will home in on enemies pretty much wherever they are. It's a little finicky getting him to return to you and go back out again. He cares about, I think it's Mega Man has to not be moving, but technically if you're at the top of a jump, you're not moving long enough for him to go out again, so... manipulating Beat to use him against Dr. Wily is actually very tricky, very interesting, but also very quickly if you can do it. Drillman has been giving Fishbowl some trouble. He took one death earlier in this section and he's pretty low on life here. Ooh, respawning a second boulder. Lands right on his head. That's going to take him out. Back to the checkpoint for him. Hypa messing around on the super arrow a little bit. Ends up slipping off of it. That's a death early on in Gyro Man stage, and he has no more super arrow ammo.
I wouldn't say that was so much of a slip as it was a perfect swan dive into the clouds.
Yep. It was elegant in its own way.
Remember, folks, in Mega Man, every death is beautiful. You're just gonna find out how.
So we'll see if he can find a beautiful solution to these screens. Actually doing a pretty good job of landing in front of the turrets, but not falling off. Now he's got the ammo he needs to progress through the stage as planned. And another death into a game over for Fishbowl. He is back to the start of Drillman stage, dealing with this stomper enemy, not quite mashing it down fast enough and getting hit anyway.
I definitely do think that the jet lag and, the problems that FishBowl did mention earlier with being, a little bit behind coming back from TwitchCon is definitely caught up with him in a big way here.
Yeah, he's already 6 minutes behind his PB. And it's looking like this is not going to get better at any point as he takes another death to these spikes in Drillman stage. I guess they're probably drills, but they act just like spikes. The good old-fashioned Mega Man one-hit kill spikes. Claims another life, sends it back to the start of the stage.
Same for Hyper here. He has to be careful in this up-climbing section. Those drill spikes, again, will do one-hit KOs, so that is a bit of a scary section. The bad part is, though, until you reach the door, if you do die on the way over, you have to repeat the, the falling brick section and that section again as well, so that's not someplace you want to end up dying anytime soon.
Holding right there instead of left. Does not fall into the spikes, and he's going to detour for the 1-up. And after all the deaths he's had in this stage, I think that's definitely the way to go. Got a Gyro Man fight, not attacking too early, making sure he has the ammo he needs to finish off Gyro Man. I lost his game feed on his stream for a moment there, but it's back.
I was going to say, yeah, that was a little weird.
Clearly splicing. Disqualified. Shamed out of the community.
Hey, if you're gonna disqualify him from that, then you know what? My mistake earlier should have disqualified him, so... Ah, there it is. He had a program error. Thank you, Windows. You always find a way to ruin something.
So FishBowl back into this tricky section of Drillman stage. Once again, he is really low on life, but he's not going to pick up... he's not going to pick up the health drop. He is going to get hit once again by these falling rocks. As Hypa sets up for the crystal skip. Just missing it there. Just missing it again. Needs the stair to go to the right, so there it is. So what's happening here is Mega Man is dying on the same frame that the enemy on the side of the screen is spawning. You fill up all of the memory values for sprites with Mega Man's death explosion, and the game has nowhere to put that ball enemy that goes back up and down. So it sticks it somewhere else in memory. It starts writing values where they shouldn't be, and it thinks that Mega Man has actually reached the end of the stage. It also thinks it takes 40 seconds for Mega Man to respawn. Thankfully, that doesn't stay through the rest of the game, but it does mean we have to sit here and watch these lovely enemies walk around for 40 seconds before respawning in the boss. I mistimed it. I mistimed it. I was trying to time it.
No!
Oh, it was his last life! That's a game over. He did not end up in the boss corridor. He simply was forced to watch for 40 seconds before the game over screen notified him of his tragic mistake. Meanwhile, FishBowl has been fighting Drillman. He takes 1 death, and this second time around, he's well ahead on life. I'm sure he's going to be fine. Skip looks good. Second time around, it is. 40 more seconds, and this time we're sure he has the extra life he needs.
That was unfortunately a very costly mistake by Hypa. I mean, again, he's still very much well ahead, but, mistakes like that are, what can cause you a very, very good lead to go down to nothing in a matter of seconds. Where you're literally wasting 40 seconds just to get past this screen. So in total, that's going to cost him 80 seconds of time onto his splits.
Yeah, his splits are going to be kind of a mess at this point. I'm sure he's not too worried about going for a PB at this point with the shenanigans he's already gotten up to, particularly in Mega Man 4. He's just going to feel silly about what happened and maybe take solace in the fact that it was pretty funny. So he's done with Crystal Man. We got Toad Man stage from FishBowl. who is showing a lot of hesitation here, allowing all of these parachuting and diving enemies to get in his way, because he seems really unfamiliar and uncomfortable with using the slide mechanic to get ahead of them.
Again, the slide in 4 is a little finicky, especially when it is in moving, moving trajectory areas where you're being pushed by things to one section or another. So, but the slide does help you give a little bit of edge against those things. You just have to be careful and time those slides very perfectly. FishBowl is definitely feeling like a little bit nervous, as I notice he's been playing a lot more cautious than normal since the starting of this, section. Ooh, Hypa! Saying hello to some drills!
Unfortunately, drills do not speak English, they only speak drill. So that's a death for him. Those drills are one-hit kills, as you saw. And if you're not fast enough in that section, you can end up spawning an extra drill later on. I saw someone actually spawn a 4th drill right at the very edge of the screen.
Ouch!
Ugh. See that one that just tinked off of it there?
Ooh.
That must suck for him.
Another game over. Oof. One interesting strategy I'd like to point out, he could do this. He does have, the Star Crush shield. He could use that because it one-hits them in return and he doesn't take damage.
Yeah, we have seen players opt to spend the menu time it takes to switch to it in order to make that section much more safe. But he's confident he can get this down. That shot tinking again.
I think
he's got to be frustrated with this at this point.
I think he's hitting some sort of spawn invisibility frame when that thing comes on screen. So it's unfortunately causing him to, miss his 3rd shot or 2nd or 3rd shot in. So it doesn't kill the drill.
Yeah, he's just got to adjust the timing of that 1st shot and he'll be fine. So I say, and so, okay, there, he noticed the tink and paused a little earlier in his slide to make sure he gets the 3rd shot he needs to take it out. As FishBowl takes out Toadman. I feel like he's been taking a different route through Mega Man 4, so I'm not quite sure where he's going to end up next.
Well, by taking out Drillman, he took out Toadman. With Toadman, his weakness is, his usability goes towards, Brightman, but he's opting for Pharaohman.
Toadman's weapon is, it's not great for a speedrun. If you're going max speed, sliding everywhere, it's totally possible to slide and get it off screen before it actually goes off. And then it doesn't do anything. And on bosses, even on bosses that are weak against it, it really doesn't do enough damage to justify the amount of time it takes for that weapon to go off. So that's one of the reasons why you see Toad done last in the 46 Robot Masters tournament, and otherwise, I guess. But it particularly is of no help through the stages. So I'm not sure why he's gone here so early. Maybe there's a fight he's not comfortable with, and he's gonna just opt to sit back and use Toad's weapon on them. I guess we'll see. Napalm Man is down for Hypa. He's moving on to the back half of Mega Man 5 now.
The back half, of course, being Unholy Trinity number 2, Stone, Charge, and Wave. Stone Man just for having a useless weapon, Charge Man for being a butt, and Wave Man for being a useless stage, and FishBowl having a little trouble on Pharaoh Man stage. Unfortunately, was trying to hop on the Balloon Riders, ends up diving face first into a wall of spikes.
Thankfully, he hit the checkpoint, so this is not the worst death by far. Speaking of,
as you were saying,
we got one from Hypa early on in Charge Man stage, also not a bad death. That should cue the death from FishBowl. Wow, so I'm not going to say anything about any more deaths and how good or bad they may be. We're just going to watch here as it looks like we're going to see an intentional game over here from Hypa is not happy with losing his super arrow ammo so early on in Charge Man stage. And by that I mean he's going to Stone Man. Stone Man is typically what you do before charge. I had completely failed to notice that he had not beaten Stone Man yet.
Notice that now too myself. I was like, wait a minute, he hasn't beaten Stone Man. Oh, click. So yeah, now I understand why he decided to go up and die there. He hadn't done Stone Man yet, which he wants Power Stones, so that way he can beat Charge Man somewhat quicker. Even though they are a bit of a pain in the arse to use.
Yeah, fighting Charge Man with the Power Stone weapon is, I mean, if you're really good at it, you can execute a really interesting and flashy strat that is actually quite fast. But it's just so difficult to pull off that you usually end up pausing the game a lot, and it ends up being quite a messy fight that not too many players are happy with. I was mostly focusing on the Pharaoh Man stage going on from Fishbowl. He has now reached the boss. He seems to not want to be staying close to Pharaoh Man, which manipulates him to be more likely to do those charge attacks rather than jumping around like a madman, throwing baseballs all over the place.
And
ends up getting obliterated by the charge shot. And his life situation is in dire straits. This is going to be a game over for him. He's going to go back to the start of the level.
And he's actually going to switch to Bright Man.
Which, yeah.
So again, we're
Pharaoh
really...
Man stage is easier with Bright Stopper, so
yes, but
I'm
again,
not surprised to see him do this.
we're starting to see the, the unfamiliarity versus the familiarity starting to come into play here. Because again, we have almost 10 to 11 Robot Masters between our racers. You can see the familiarity coming from Hypa and knowing what he needs to do, correcting himself of his mistakes as soon as he can. Fishbowl is trying the best he can to come up with alternate strats on the fly for what he's doing. Some of them have been successful, and others have unfortunately led to, time-costing deaths. So this is the unfortunate side effect of, trying to route on the fly. Especially with Mega Man, you definitely want to, as you're going into, especially this tournament, where you're only doing just the Robot Masters, you literally want to practice the Robot Masters and get down to a point where it's like, okay, this is my best starting Robot Master, and then he does this Robot Master, which leads to this Robot Master. So that way you can just keep going on a chain of going through the Robot Masters without having to take too much stops.
Let's see what he can come up with here. For Brightman stage, he's charging that Buster, which will help you take out the totem pole enemies, but it does cause quite a bit of lag while you're riding the grasshoppers, so if possible, you want to avoid it, but you also need to be pretty good at mashing in order to take them down, and that does seem to be a bit of a blind spot for him, so maybe charging the Buster is the right play for him. Regardless, he's through that first grasshopper section, as we've got a chicken room going on from Hypa, who has not dedicated it to anyone yet, but maybe we'll see him pop up. He has been quite active in chat. I'm sure if he has someone in mind, he'll let us know.
I've been meaning to ask about that. What do you guys mean by dedication?
There's nothing to ask of you. You do the chicken room and you dedicate the room to someone. It's up to you. It can be someone who you admire, or someone you want to taunt, someone who just really matters a lot to you, or it's the first name you see in chat. It doesn't matter. You do the chicken room. The chicken room is obviously noteworthy for obvious reasons, and as such, players feel the need to dedicate it to the people that are close to them. It's really as simple as that. So we've got Charge Man going on here. Yeah, he was in a bad health situation, and he was missing a couple of those Power Stone shots, running out of time to kill him before that attack comes out. So he's going to take a death. We've got Rush Jet out in Brightman stage. Finally getting the lights back on just before the boss.
A reminder, all the folks at home, if you have power stones, see a doctor. You're not healthy.
You never want to have to pass a Power Stone. So we
No,
are
you
seeing
don't.
Toadman's weapon here on Brightman.
And as you can see, the unfortunate, values of the 16, 8, and 4 coming into play, because literally, for every chunk of energy you're using into Toadman's weapon, that is what Brightman's energy goes down to as well, so it's a take and receive type weapon, and it takes about 2.5 to 3 seconds to even activate to begin with, so in the amount of time that you're taking to spend and use the weapon, you could just, charge buster your way through them.
Yeah, one of the rare cases where the weakness is actually slower than the Buster. Does get him down though, and he does manage to make sure that he jumps when those flashes come out rather, because he was in midair and managed to dodge a lot of Brightman's shots during the flash. So it seems he's pretty comfortable with that strat. Now with Brightman's weapon in hand, we'll see if he's going to bust that out for Pharaoh's stage here. It makes the screen a lot easier, but again, he does seem to be hesitant to bust out some of those weapons during stages. He really favors sticking to the Buster unless he absolutely has to switch.
Hypa looked like he was going for something.
There's a really fast way to do this bubble section, and that was not quite it. And then there's a rather safe and consistent way, and he wasn't quite doing that either. He's putting the arrows out like he's gonna do boat skip. And he does get it. Only saving a meager second and a potential for soft lock. It is slightly questionable whether it is the smart thing to do in a tournament setting, but it's also not too hard to execute on. So a lot of players just feel totally comfortable going for it, and it looks like Hype is one of them. Second time through Pharaoh Man stage, going much more smoothly for FishBowl. And now he's in to the Pharaoh Man fight. He's got Brightman's weapon actually out here. It is, like Toadman's weapon, a very slow alternative. Not too much slower, but a little bit slower.
It does add up slowly though, because you are taking your time to sit there and, single shot him for 1 point of damage, so it is rough, but it is a passable, ideal weapon to use, in case you're not familiar with the strats.
We'll see how Waveman goes. For Hypa, who is low on health, and Charge Kick is a weapon that lends itself to trading hits with bosses. Wow, getting an interesting pattern to dodge there. Having to back up from the harpoon, and then getting cornered by the jump. Waveman looking really strong there. Sliding across the stage despite being low on ammo. See if he has what he needs. Nope, he is going to have to switch to something to finish him off. Looks like he's going to have no problem finishing it off, though. So, Waveman is down. Hypa switching to Mega Man 6. Final set of Robot Masters. I guess technically he's in Rock Band 6. I think they're identical at this point. There's a really interesting divergence in Mega Man 2 and Rock Man 2, where the difficulty for Mega Man 2 normal is actually easy, and difficult mode is the default for Rockman 2. So players are actually free to use whichever one they want, and you think, well, why wouldn't you use the easier one? And it's because the Japanese version also just saves a boatload of time with the shorter text on all those weapon get cutscenes. And the time saved from text happens to be very, very comparable to the time you lose from the enemies having more health. So it is totally up to the players whether they want to go with Mega Man 2 or Rockman 2.
Hypa here is having a little bit of trouble in Windman stage. He's got these reversible platforms that he's struggling with. He's trying to... Wow. He was trying to slide jump across a couple of them, but he's also trying to jump back and forth between one set. Unfortunately, he's overguessed his timing quite a couple times here, so unfortunately it's to put him on his final life for the stage, so thankfully there is a 1-up here. Hopefully he will take it. Is opting to ignore it.
Bold move. He looked really good on that third try through the section.
He did. It's just, you know, again, with 1 life left, literally the last life you got, how good are you managing with just that 1 life, getting through the rest of the stage, and hopefully getting a recovery life at the next stage. Speaking of life energy issues, FishBowl here has got to be careful. He's on the first, second, mini-boss of Ringman stage. He has to take out the rings at the moment. He only has a couple hits he can take, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to do the second hippo skip.
I don't think so.
Goes for it anyways and pays the price.
Yeah, if he was a little faster there, if he threw in a slide while he was on top, he would have been okay. It's possible to get by only getting hit once. Taking it nice and easy through the early parts of Ringman stage.
For some odd reason, chat has died for me on Twitch, so... So Hypa, after killing Windman, is now heading to Flameman. Meanwhile, FishBowl's having a little bit of trouble here going through Ringman stage. So the one thing, again, to point out, as we've already discussed before multiple times, is through Flameland stage, you have those little fire spitters, and then you also have the patches of oil lakes. You don't want any of them to get set ablaze, because if one does, in the later sections of Flameland stage, towards the end, another one's going to light up. So if you accidentally set all these on fire, before you even get to that section, all of them are going to be on fire. And the fire is a one-hit KO, because it literally just melts Mega Man out of existence. So good job by Hypa making sure none of the flames go off, makes it across the cloud hopping section, and is now towards the second half of Flameman stage. The second half here is going to be the tougher section because you now have the flamethrower and robots, which also cause a lot of knockback, but also can set the pools of, of oil on fire. So if you get caught in them while you're trying to jump out, you can suffer an intentional death. Excuse me, unintentional. So as we can see, FishBowl is now on the second part of the, the giant hippos. Hypa going risky there, takes the slide across the fire pit after getting hit. FishBowl making it through the second time. Good job by FishBowl, makes it to the halfway point now. Meanwhile, Hypa's now entering Flameman's room. The interesting thing to note about, Windman's weapon is it causes a lot of slowdown. But if you can time it just right, it can actually be quite a useful weapon to help take out, smaller enemies, or as you can see in this case, take out Flameman. And FishBowl having another down at Ringman stage. Alright, so Hypa is now on Blizzard Man stage. This is one of the more technical stages in Mega Man 6 because of all the ice physics. Not even just that, but you have a couple of instances where you can instantly just, you know, go down with no reason whatsoever.
Is the channel still live?
I'm still streaming. I have not lost a single frame. Unfortunately, for some odd reason, Twitch has indeed gone down, even though both these players are still running.
I can't even... like, the entire page isn't loading anymore on Twitch TV. Something is going on.
I'm checking, my page is down too. Wow.
So I think it's one of these things where if you're already streaming, then you can keep streaming.
Well, good, because I'm not stopping, and hopefully this will make it all to video on demand. Oh, I'd hate to see this race go to waste. So as you can see, Hypa made it through the scary section of Blizzard Man, is now on the bombs to the door. Meanwhile, FishBowl is now back at the second part of Ringman stage, after having another down situation. So, again, things still aren't looking very good in FishBowl's favor, unless for some odd reason Hypa suffers multiple death syndrome.
Oh, good. When I closed one of my windows that I was using to check if the stream is live, and I closed FishBowl stream, and now I can't get it back up even with live streamer.
Oof. So unfortunately at the moment, Twitch is having a major blackout issue. That's not a good thing. Hopefully this will not affect the... Oh, FishBowl! Unfortunately getting hit by one of the Saturn enemies, goes full line into the pit. Coming up on the second half of getting towards, you know, Ringman's goalpost. So that's an unfortunate down there. He was almost close to getting to the second ring mini-boss. Meanwhile, Hypa has just started Plantman stage. FishBowl unfortunately falling again, this time to the reverse platforms. I don't believe that Ringman is one of his strongest stages. I think he's having a real issue with this one. His timer's still running even though he's sitting there looking at the screen. I don't know if he's deciding what to do, and he's gonna keep going. I gotta give him props for trying to press on. Alright now, so Hypa is up on the second half of Plantman here. Again, you can use, Flame Man's weapon to damage Plantman if you want to. Just an alternative strat in case you don't want to do Blizzard Man until like the later end of the game. But as you can see here, this platforming section for Plantman is what is considered to be the worst room in the game. Because literally, you gotta time your jumps, and if you're not jumping by holding the jump button on these springs, you don't get a full jump as Hypa unfortunately falls into the pit and takes a game over in the middle of the stage! Unfortunate down by Hypa. Ugh, the unfortunate down by Hypa is going to send him all the way back. This is not good. And also FishBowl taking it down in Ringman Stage 2 himself, having to go all the way back to the start of Ringman. This is unfortunate for both players. Alright, so Fishbowl is coming up on the first mini-boss. Meanwhile, Hypa is now on the second gorilla, I do believe. Yep, just did the second gorilla, is now on the Springs of Death. So again, the thing that makes this difficult is you got the fish coming out of the water, but you also have these flying, stag beetle type robots coming at you. In addition to the fact you have pea shooters that are trying to home in on your position, and on top of that, you have to hold the jump button in order to make these springs work. If you're just tapping it, you don't get the full jump. So if you half jump, you'll unfortunately go flailing right into the water like a dead fish. That was probably not the best thing to choose to say at that moment, but unfortunately it's the most accurate term I got. Uh-oh! Yep, there goes Hypa again. And oh, Fishbowl! Almost both at the same time, suffering a down. We're really at the dicier end of Mega Man 6 for Hypa, just trying to get through Plant Man here. This is usually the one stage that most people struggle in, but with Fishbowl here, he's having a lot of trouble with this one section in Ringman. Again, the platform's disappearing backwards this time. Instead of going from left to right, they're going from right to left. So it's kind of confusing to see something coming at you versus going away from you. So it does kind of add up to the confusion of trying to get across it. Thankfully he does. Hypa here is on the last platform just before going into Plant Man's room. Makes the jump this time. Alright, Twitch just came back up. Thank goodness. Just in time. Alright, so sorry about being in the dark there, folks, if you unfortunately could not chat or watch. Let's catch you up to speed. As you can see, Hypa has started Plant Man's fight. He now just completed Plant Man. Fishbowl has finally made it to Ringman and is fighting Ringman. Unfortunately, takes another down to Ringman. I think he has one extra life. Yes, he does. So he'll be able to continue fighting, thankfully, but he's on his last life and he does not have any energy tanks. This is not good for him if he takes another down.
Plant Man is down for Hypa, and Ringman is down for Fishbowl. He has tons of life this time around. No problem, able to deal with the very fast, but still very predictable Ringman fight.
Once again, welcome back to those who unfortunately lost connection to their chat and to the race. We welcome you back to the 46 Robot Masters Tournament Challenge. Hypa is now starting on Tomahawk's Man stage. He has 4 Robot Masters left, including Tomahawk. Meanwhile, Fishbowl starting Dustman has Dustman, Skullman, and Diveman, plus 5 and 6 to go through.
Yeah, I think what we should do is after Hypa finishes, we will cut the cast and we will raid our good buddy Fishbowl.
We'll send everyone to Fishbowl, yeah. This definitely wouldn't want to have someone, not able to finish, so we definitely want to give Fishbowl some love here.
Hypa looking pretty good, moving through Tomahawk Man stage. He's got Flame Man's weapon out. It is the most versatile weapon of Mega Man 6. Does good damage, has a lot of ammo. You have to contend with the arc it has to it, but often it's not a problem simply by waiting until you're very close and jamming it in enemies' faces.
So the thing with Tomahawk Man, again, he has 3 attacks, the Body Slam, he has the Headdress, and he also has the Tomahawks. The most damaging thing about him is the Tomahawks and the Body Slam, and as you can see, unfortunately, Hypa used too much energy in the middle of the fight, took an extra invisibility frame on Tomahawk Man, still gets the down on him though. The unfortunate thing is, Plant Man's weapon energy is only limited to the amount you need to kill the boss, so if you run out, you unfortunately run out clean. Oh no, Fishbowl! Oof, almost got caught in the Dust Crusher section. Oh no! Gets out of the way, thank goodness. Fishbowl's having a little bit of trouble with the Dust Crusher section!
Yeah, this is a tough section. Even with the Buster, it's still scary. Mostly that one point there where you have no safe spot to chip away at the blocks. You either do it in one go, or you shoot them and slide all the way back to safety before going in for another pass.
That is the unfortunate part about Dustman stage. This is where, you know, originally, Mythical, you were talking about, you know, this stage, you know, being unforgiving and unfriendly. This right here is the most unfriendly part about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's taking his time here, chipping away at far more of these blocks than he needs to.
Just barely
sliding in there.
Meanwhile, Hypa is now on Yamato Man, is opting to use the jet to go up. Very fast idea because it's the quickest way there, and you get a letter for B.
Beat, not really too useful, even in the full Mega Man 6 speedrun.
Yeah.
Does a lot of damage, and could potentially be useful, but it just drains so much ammo to use Beat that it ends up not being worth the menu.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is they nerfed Beat in 6 versus 5. That is the sad thing, because Beat is a very nice weapon. Alright, Fishbowl has made it to Dustman, is now fighting Dustman. Meanwhile, Hypa has started Yamato Man's fight with the Corinthian Bronze Tomahawks. And Fishbowl gets Dustman down. And down goes Yamato Man for Hypa.
Solid boss fights.
Both very solid.
Yamato spear in hand. Hypa is going to be moving on to Nightman stage, but not before his opponent enters Skullman stage. Don't expect to see a zip here.
Sorry, I was taking a spare second to check up on some stuff. So as you can see now, Fishbowl is starting with Skullman, has Skullman and Dive Man left. Hypa only has Nightman and Centaur Man left, so he is literally within the 2 hour and 10 minute mark, approaching at the end of the run. Definitely can say this much for Hypa here. He's definitely going for a very good PB and a personal best overall together. I know Fishbowl's hurting and wants this run to be over soon, but it'll be over soon enough, buddy. Just hang in there. Hypa here, making the nerds mad. And for personal reference, it looks like for Hypa, his personal best at the moment is 2:59 flat. So that's 2 hours and 59 minutes.
Well,
according to the thing here.
No, that is for this split.
Ah, for this split, okay.
Yeah, 2 minutes 59 seconds. His total PB is 1. No, that's some of best. It's around 2 hours, I believe.
Alright.
He's answering in chat with the 158. If his PB was a 259, it'd actually be a pretty close race. His opponent FishBowl has got 255 showing on his splits. Nightman is defeated, made very, very easy with the Yamato weapon. Goes through his shield, does decent damage. And that means we've only got Centaur Man left before this race is over.
And here with Centaur's Man stage, this is what most people consider to be, the worst stage in the game. I know we talked about with Plant Man being, he has the worst room in the game. This is the king of the worst stage in the game because, legitimately, you just get all the physics from the last Mega Mans 1 through 5 coming together. You get water hazards, you get instant death spikes, you get cheesy pits, you got low gravity because of the water, so it's like, it messes with your head just enough to see if you can survive, and then tops it off with a very, very hard-hitting heavy boss, if he does hit you, that is, with very, very little in originality. And here, one of the more interesting physical rooms in Centaur Man stage, the reverse water, as you can see, it goes up and down, back and forth, so you have to time your jumps so that way you can actually jump into it and, ride the wave over, per se.
Or you can do what Hypa did and actually take a damage boost and slide along the spikes. He's really low on health, though. Maybe gonna regret that things went that way. See what he can do.
Oof! Not a place he wants to be. He's unfortunately running out of night balls, or night chains. He needs to be careful here.
He really wanted that health trap that was on his way, too.
Yes, that would have been a very nice grab, but unfortunately, he did not get it, so... Switching to Fire Blast, he's gonna hopefully farm the squid here. No dice. FishBowl unfortunately taking another down at Dive Man stage, unfortunately dying to the Stingrays. Hypa here is now fighting Centaur Man, has to be careful, one touch and it sends him back out the corner. Oh no, it's a freeze and he gets the... Oh!
Yeah, just barely dodging the projectile only to get run over by Centaur Man. One of the ways you can dodge that flash attack is to take damage, which obviously he could not do in that situation, but if either he or you is in iframes, he will not do the flash, but getting hit to put yourself in iframes is not an option when that hit will also kill you. So he's gonna bust out the power suit here and just punch the Centaur to death.
He's opting to fist the horse down.
So we've got a done. In chat, Hypa has finished in first place with a time of 2:13:37. He is too late for his opponent, apparently. I just realized when I say it out loud, it doesn't quite come across, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in chat to give that joke any chance of playing. Because jokes are always funny when you have to think about them, right? That's how that works.
Normally, if you have to think about the joke because you don't know the joke, it does help.
Absolutely, yeah. People love to stop and think in the middle of comedy. So that is the end of Hypa's run, and that's going to be the end of our broadcast for a short while. We're going to be back at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be an hour and about 40 minutes for more Mega Man 2 Robot Masters. That's right, only 2 Robot Masters. Mega Man 46 Robot Masters. And there's a whole bunch of matches back-to-back, 5, 7, and 9 p.m. We got Richard, we got Darkman, Fast at CC, Slurpy Ninja, Dark Terex, and Prissy, all going to be featured. So definitely come back for that. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to twitch.tv/FishBowl3. That's our raid target. We're going to cheer him on, keep him company in the back half of these Mega Man games here. Thanks so much for the restreaming and the commentator perspective, Sacred Hooves.
I appreciate the honor. I'm always glad to help out in these wonderful moments. And again, folks, please go check out FishBowl3 as he is heading into now the back half of the run. He's on Mega Man's 5 and 6. So go over, check him out. And then always, as always, please come back and join us at 5, 7, and 9 on both here at Speed Gaming on Twitch, and also join us on our alternate channel in case we have additional runs at Speed Runs Live, also on Twitch. Happy hunting!